Shanghai, Beijing throws an election, and a special comment on Tibet. Chinese markets plummeted on March 17 and as we speak are falling further. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index fell over 5% to just over 21,000, a 7-month low. The Hang Seng China Enterprise Index, charting Chinese red chips, sank over 7%. In Shanghai, the Shanghai Composite fell over 3.5% to 3,820, below 4,000 again, and as we speak, it is down to 3,722. The CSI 300 index fell almost 5% to close at 3,965 March 17. Shanghai B shares were down over 6% to just above 270. Shenzhen Bs sank over 5% down to 542.69. Although the first quarter is not yet over, at this point, the only one of my 4 scenarios for the Shanghai market this year that predicted markets at this level is the flat scenario, with Shanghai ending the year at less than the 2007 peak. Hu Jintao was re-elected president of China for a second and final 5-year term. Hu won by a wide margin, but there were 3 votes against him and 5 abstaining. Xi Jinping was elected vice president, a move widely interpreted as meaning he is in line for the presidency in 2013. Wen Jiabao was re-elected as premier or prime minister, and Li Keqiang as a vice premier and his possible successor. As I pointed out before, however, Li could win out over Xi for the presidency if Jiang Zemin's power finally fades. All told, nearly 60% of the Chinese cabinet was replaced with new officials. Along with the creation of new central ministries, 2008 marks a significant shake-up in the Chinese political power structure. The National People's Congress will adjourn by midweek. There are 2.8 million people living in Tibet, an autonomous area of China called Xizang in Chinese, or Western Storehouse. About 486,000 live in towns and cities, most of them in urban Lhasa, the capital of Tibet. Last Friday in Lhasa, a group of mostly young Tibetan men in their 20s, according to eyewitness reports, rioted by smashing up Chinese-owned shops and markets, overturning cars, and burning piles of looted debris in the streets. The fires spread to buildings, including shops, temples, and apartments. There are an unknown number of dead. The city remains under a lockdown, with many residents, Tibetan and Chinese alike, afraid to go outside, and government orders to stay put. Tibet and Tibetans have been negotiating their status vis-a-vis China and Chinese for centuries and centuries, and there is plenty of historical evidence to support claims on both sides. Starting around 1854, the British, and about a century later the Americans, are also involved in the struggle with competing strategic aims. There is a real story here, but it is lost in the din of propaganda emanating from Beijing on one side and Dharamsala, Nepal on the other. Foreign press, particularly the Anglo-American mainstream media, only reports on Tibet through the prism of Tiananmen Square, 1989. Caught in the middle, of course, are the Tibetans, most of whom are not monks or members of the party, but very poor. Like native peoples in many parts of the world, from the northern plains Native American counties, remnants of the Sioux and Dakota nations, to Aborigines in Australia, Tibetans are paupers in their own country. I believe the real culprit behind the trouble in Lhasa is inflation and poverty. Food prices are up over 23% on average in China. Prices for all goods and staples are rising dramatically, including fuel and cooking oil. Remember, it was a surge in cooking oil prices that sent the Burma monks over the edge last fall. Reports are that inflation may run as high as 300% in Tibet. The Chinese State Statistical Bureau does not publish individual data on Tibet. Ethnic Chinese dominate the day-to-day markets and businesses of Lhasa and the urban areas of the region. When we see shops looted, markets ablaze, and overturned Audis set afire in the streets, something other than democracy is at issue. Beijing will probably begin to tackle inflation very seriously now and even risk a hard landing in order to quell popular discontent. That will mean a more restrictive monetary policy, possibly a bear market in stocks, but greater state investment and a faster appreciation of the yuan. Some forecasters now see the yuan reaching 6.6 to the dollar by year's end. I'll see you next time with a new alphabet.